And so if you notice that most of you model the beams, unfortunately, by default, all your framing um, is always at the top of the level. So if you would look at your elevation or a section, I'm going to take a look at the section and just cut it through the whole building. So I'm going to stretch this viewport all the way up and look for my beam locations. Let's see, I've got one here. So I bet most of you have this condition, and some of you have fixed that already. It's just how by default gets all the framing gets put in. So to adjust that, it's the Z direction offset. It's this value here from your top of the slab. And if you select one beam, you can check that first as a good sort of rule of thumb. Just check on one beam before you do any work on all other beams, as it might be wrong. So I'm going to check -5 for the thickness of slab. You guys know 5, right? Why 5 inches? Because that metal deck is 3-inch lightweight concrete plus 2-inch metal deck. So that's total 5 inches. So that looks correct. I'm going to go back to undo that, go back to my 3D view. And you notice sometimes if you can't select something like a framing in one view, use other views. For instance, in here, some of you had difficulties. I think you had a difficulty selecting framing from plan view. So like, let's see, we're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th floor. So that framing is on the 6th floor and it's incorrect. So I'm going to go to the 6th floor from Project Browser, level 6, and just drag it, filter, and see, I don't see my structural framing. It has to do with view range and how your view range is clipped at certain floor plan. So I'm just going to go back to 3D view. Sometimes you may want to adjust it, but I'm not going to sort of go through the editing view range. That's a little bit pain in the butt. Have you guys learned this yet? Editing view range? You know what that is? So in any viewport, just as sort of a quick introduction to that, view range allows you to change the cut plane and the view plane. So notice top is the 6th level, that's correct, set at 7'6". Cut plane is at 4 feet, meaning at some point here at 6th floor it's getting cut 4 feet above the finished floor, and the bottom is actually 0 and it's level 6. Now you can make that level 5, level below, and what's going to happen, you have to match the view depth as well. If you apply that, hit OK, your partitions should show up. Let's see, edit, top, cut plane, 4 feet, that's fine, offset, it should be fine, it's not showing up. But there might not be partitions in it. There's some partitions here. Are those walls on the 6th floor or on the 5th floor? Do you know? 6th floor. Oh, I see what you carry. Okay, so as a rule of thumb, you probably never want to do that. I know it's fine if you've done it already, but I think in general you probably want to keep all your partitions and all your components built floor by floor, other than stairs and shafts, and some other vertical components. But like partitions, a carpenter wouldn't come here and install 50-foot framing, right, for a wall. It's just not possible. So that's why the view range is not working. But so I'm gonna sort of skip that step and go right into the framing. Go back to 3D view. Often you can right click any component and select all instances visible in view, meaning you could be in the 1st floor and you only select that particular component in that view, or the entire project. The problem with that is that these beams are 21 by 44, and these beams are different. So, you know, it's sort of repeating step, but there's an alternate for you to do it that way. It's a little bit more painful. So I probably just want to zoom out a little bit more and select everything here. Filter, check none, structural framing. And what I want to do is move the beams 5 inches below the slab. And so that's which value? Top offset Z direction, -5 inches. When it comes to framing, it is a good lesson to learn and group objects, especially when they're similar from floor to floor. Even partitions. So like in your case, you could have taken all the partitions here and actually grouped them in one floor. So actually what I'm going to do is take all those partitions on the 6th floor, make them from 6th to 5th only. So I go to level, let's see, 6th floor is that one. Just so you can see the grouping capability of that. This is what, 6th floor? Level 6. So I'm going to go to level 6. Select all partitions. Filter. Check none. Walls. Hit OK. And then here in my properties menu, base offset constraint will be the 5th floor. Sorry, the 6th floor. The 6th floor. And then base offset is 0. Top constraint would be what? Whatever's above the 6th, which is that the roof? Yeah? We'll check. If it's incorrect, then we'll adjust it. And what's the last thing you want to offset again? So if you don't do -5, those walls will dive right into the slab. So you definitely want to offset the 5. Now there's a quick trick to avoid that as well. Whenever you adjust a slab or build a slab, can't cut instance. That's fine. Like sometimes if you want to adjust the slab, I'm going to edit the boundary just slightly so you can see what's going on. And I move this ever so slightly. Okay, it didn't give me that option, but when you adjust the floor and you have partitions below, you get this pop-up. Do you want to attach walls to the bottom of the slab? If you hit yes, that 5 inches on all the partitions gets put in automatically. Problem with that is it's constrained to the floor above it, and the pluses are if you modify that floor, the walls go with it. Negatives, sometimes you want to modify the wall, you modify the door, you do something to the wall, it'll give you hell of errors because this stuff is constrained to something else above. So I generally use no constraints. Do not attach. Got my partitions here, so check it out. They're nicely lined up. They're beneath the slab. They're not going through the slab. The beams also are not going through the slab. In this case, I actually grouped them, so I'm going to ungroup this section here. When you develop your one level of beams, forget about copying all the beams and selecting them. As a rule of thumb, always group your framing, your similar components. I'm going to select the top floor, those beams here which I've created, or I haven't, they have been created, but I'm using them. Alright, group it, GP shortcut, and name it typical framing, meaning that framing will repeat throughout the whole building, 2nd through 6th. Hit OK. Just double check again, it looks correct, everything is aligned, everything is perfect. Copy, paste, you guys all know that as I saw. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, we're on the 6th, so that's fine. Alright, it just gave me identical instances, so let me just copy that to the 6th floor one more time. You don't have to keep copying over it. That's still in the memory. Whenever you copy an object, it's still in the clipboard. You can just go back, keep paste, Align levels. 6th floor. Hit OK. And the cool thing about groups, let's see, edit group. Let's say that beam is no longer 21. Your structural engineer called in, hey listen, I got a mistake here, it's not 44, it's actually 50, right? Or actually, let's make it shorter so that you can see it in the size. It's a very small beam. Hit finish. Voila, all the floors, everything is adjusted, right? So grouping is very helpful, especially when you have multiple objects on multiple floors. Alright? I'm gonna undo this, go back. Any questions on that? You guys are good? Solid? Confident? By the way, this is recording anyway, so if you have, that's gonna be on Blackboard, accessible for all of you guys. Stairs.